scripture this morning is coming from Daniel. We'll be reading in the first chapter, verses 3 through 16. Then the king ordered Ashpenaz, the chief of his court officials, to bring in some of the Israelites from the royal family and the nobility. Young men without any physical defect, handsome, showing aptitude for every kind of learning, well-informed, quick to understand, and qualified to serve in the king's palace. He was to teach them the language and the literature of the Babylonians. The king assigned them a daily amount of food and wine from the king's table, and they were to be trained for 3 years. After that, they were to enter the king's service. Among these were some from Judah: Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. The chief official gave them new names. To Daniel, the name Belteshazzar; to Hananiah, Shadrach; to Mishael, Meshach; and to Azariah, Abednego. But Daniel resolved not to defile himself with royal food and wine, and he asked the chief official for permission not to defile himself in this way. Now God caused the official to show favor and sympathy to Daniel. But the official told Daniel, "I'm afraid of my lord the king, who has assigned your food and drink. Why should he see you looking worse than the other young men your age? The king would then have my head because of you." Daniel then said to the guard, whom the chief official had appointed over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, "Please test your servants for 10 days. Give us nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then compare our appearance with that of the young men who eat the royal food, and treat your servants in accordance with that which you see." So he agreed and tested them for 10 days. At the end of the 10 days, they looked healthier and better nourished than any of the young men who ate the royal food. So the guard took away their choice food and the wine they were to drink, and gave them vegetables instead. May God bless the reading and hearing of this, his holy word. We've been looking these past few weeks over how it is that we can manage our passions, and this week we're looking at how we can control our appetite. Now this is pretty practical. I have to say, and I think there's some legalese here, that I am not a medical doctor of any medical training, so therefore anything I say you should take with a grain of salt and should consult your own physician first before undertaking any of the things that I suggest. Can I have your date of birth? No, wait a minute, that's a whole different thing. So I want to talk today about controlling our appetite. And literally, how is it that we deal with what we eat? And I want to start by saying when I was a young kid, one of the things that I used to look forward to is spending time with my dad and going with him to work. Now, quite often, if he had a half a day, he would take me to work with him. And in this one place, there was a McDonald's right across the street. Now, I knew that if I behaved myself and wasn't a brat, that there was probably a good chance that he would take me to McDonald's, and that was a treat. Now, this is when McDonald's had hamburgers that looked like this. Remember those days? Simple hamburger. You can still get these in McDonald's. They're like 3 times the price, but it's a simple hamburger. And I used to love just having a hamburger, a fry, and a shake. That was to me the neatest thing. When Bill said, "Oh, I would love to go to McDonald's." Now, somewhere along the way, McDonald's decided that this hamburger, which they had sold millions of, needed a boost. So they came up with this next hamburger. It's the Big Mac, and we all know the Big Mac is 2 beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. Goes to prove good marketing still pays off today. So we'd have Big Macs, and I have had my share of Big Macs in my day. They don't quite taste the same. I think maybe it's older. But somewhere along the way, people have decided that as big as the Big Mac was, that's quite not where we should be. And so they've gone even further to show us this, whatever this may be. And I was trying to look, I'm seeing 4 patties, I got bacon, we got layers of cheese. I don't even know how you get that in. But somehow that's bigger and better, and you know, I realize that this is almost a reflection of where we find ourselves in the world today, isn't it? That, you know, we just keep eating more and more stuff. I don't even want to think about how many calories that is. I don't even want to know what I'd feel like after I ate that. But there are people that absolutely would love to just put that down. Now, right now, I'm hoping none of you has a craving to go to McDonald's or anything for lunch. That takes care of it. One of the things that I realized as I began to think about this topic of appetite, started looking and crunching some of the numbers, and one of the things that came out to me is that in the United States, if you can see this, about 35% of adults in the United States are classified as being obese. Think about that for a minute. But more than a third of the adults in the United States right now are classified as obese. Now, I got to break that down if you're not familiar. I'm using obese with the idea of the body mass index, which looks at your height and looks at your weight and assigns a number to that. And what they have said is anything over 30 in a BMI, body mass index, is considered obese. I am 31.9. That's my BMI. Now, I got to tell you, I don't think, have a body image of being obese, but according to the BMI, I am. And in fact, I have to lose about 13 pounds to move from the obese category into the high end of the overweight category. I would have to lose 50 pounds and get myself down to about into the mid-160s to be classified as healthy. You do not want to see this at 160 pounds. It would. Last time I was in that was probably in my very, very early 20s. I'm not sure I can pull off 160 pounds now. I say that for us to be thinking about our own image of where we are. I don't know that there's anybody, well, there's a few people in here that couldn't afford to lose some weight, but most of us think about dieting and how it is that we want to take and get ourselves into shape, how it is that we can be better than what we are. And that brings us to a passage from Romans that I want to share with you. It says, "Therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. That is your true and proper worship." Now think about that for a minute. How many of you think of this as an act of worship to God? How is it that you think about what we eat as an act of true and proper worship? And yet that's what Paul says. And I think he's right to some extent. God created each and every one of us. God created a wonderful world in which we live. And then if you ever thought about what we do with this very thing that God has created, what we put into it, we're more concerned about maybe what kind of gas we put in or oil we put in our car. We're more concerned about that than we are what we put into ourselves. Daniel, the passage in Daniel this morning, I thought was really great. I mean, think about the situation Daniel and his friends are in. They've been picked out by the ruler of Babylonia to serve the king. And in order to do that, they're going to be taught and all these different things. And while they're getting the food from the king's table. And they're getting the king's wine. The best that you can imagine is offered to them. And Daniel says, no. No, I don't want to have all that stuff. Just give me vegetables and water. Most of us with a nice, beautiful buffet placed before us, dive right in. We've been there, Hibachi Grill, Golden Corral, gone someplace else, and you just literally watch, and the plates are mounded with so much. Because it's all laid out there. And yet, Daniel says no. Watch me for the next 10 days and our friends, and see how we measure up if we just take in these vegetables and water. Maybe that's good advice for each and every one of us. And I'm not sitting here promoting being a vegetarian or vegan or whatever the terms are. What I'm saying is that he's taking and understanding that how he treats his body is that act of worship to God. And so he was very careful and said, no, I want to eat these things because I know it's going to treat me much better. So I want to take a few minutes this morning and have us just be thinking about what it is that we take in. How it is that if we really do want to take care of this, it really does take a little bit of thought and effort to do it. And the first thing that I have learned is you got to find somebody to partner with. Trying quite often to watch and manage our diet and where we are is something that we just need to take and pay attention to. When we left to go on renewal leave, I had to leave my coach. I have a coach through WebMD, and she worked with me all last year, but she left at the same time I left for renewal leave. She left to have a child. So when I came back, she was still away, and we didn't touch base. Now, I tried all of this fall because I had put on about 10 pounds while I was away. Most of that's because of eating junk and not really being able to really control menu and that sort of thing. And I wanted to it's like, oh, I don't need my coach. I don't need, and her great name, Davinia, love the name. I can do this without Davinia. And I tried, and I couldn't do it. Well, I finally sent an email back at the beginning of January and tried to touch base. And about a week passed, and the phone rang, and Diane answered it and says, well, I think he'll want to talk to you. And I'm like looking at her, going, who is it? Who is it? She just hands me the phone. And Charlie Soper, how have you been? And Diane can attribute this. I actually just broke out into a happy dance. I was like, what's the video? It's like, I was so happy to hear from her. Well, I went, after talking with her and going through all the other things, the week before last, within that week, I lost 3 pounds that whole week. Doing exactly what I knew I had to do. But because now I have somebody to be accountable to, someone to encourage me, that it works. So the first thing, if you want to control your appetite, if you want to take it and start making a change, find somebody to partner with, that you can talk to, that can encourage you, that you can sit there and say, yeah, I understand, but this, don't forget, you need to be doing this. So find someone. The second thing that I think is important is you need to start paying attention literally to what goes in. Most of us have smartphones. Get an app. MyFitnessPal is the one I use. Get an app so you can record what you're eating. Your doctor can tell you roughly what a good number is for your calories. So you ought to be thinking about that. The average American, by the way, eats about 20 to 25% more calories than we really need. Well, if we're bringing fuel in, we're not burning it, it's got to be stored somewhere. So we ought to pay attention to what do we need to fuel this thing. And pay attention. Pay attention to what you're fueling it with. Because you can so quickly, you think it's not a big thing, but can get out of control. It was about a year ago, Diane and I went to Friendly's. And I was trying to pay attention, so I ordered a BLT. Kind of works, right? Wheat bread, bacon, lettuce, tomato. It's not so bad. Yeah, I got fries. But then I ordered a Scribble. Okay? So I enter the other stuff into my app on my phone, and I enter in a Fribble. 660 calories for a Fribble. My first advice that Davinia gave to me as my coach is do not drink your calories. And right there, 660 calories. I'm working between 1,600 and 1,700 calories a day. I just blew it. A whole meal's worth of calories on a Fribble. Pay attention. Pay attention. I never would have thought that. I would have thought, oh, okay, it's 100, 600. And now what do I have to do? And what I figured out is I have to burn 600 calories. Try to figure out what you have to do to burn 600 calories. Drink water. Drink water. Now the number that I have, and there are medical people here, so if I'm wrong, let me know. But roughly what I've been told is take your weight, divide it in half, and that's how many ounces of water you're supposed to drink a day. So I need to drink about 100 ounces, 3 quarts of water a day. How many people take in that much water? And what it does is if we don't, our body's left in a state of dehydration. We may not feel it, but we don't have enough water. Every organ, every part of our body needs water. And water helps burn calories. Real simple. Drink water. What did Daniel say he wanted? Vegetables, which by the way, you can eat almost as many as you want because they're not high in calories, but he wanted water. Drink water. And it saves you money, by the way. I don't know any place that charges for water at the restaurant or the diner, and we'll talk about that next week. Exercise. That for me is the hardest thing. God made us to be able to move and do things. And yet most of the time, a lot of us are in very sedate kind of jobs that we just, we don't have the opportunity to get up and move around. And so we've got to schedule exercise just like we schedule seeing our favorite TV show. Let's work about trying to exercise. I'm one of those people when I go to ShopRite or to the mall. Oh, God, thank you. This is like only the second stall in. It's right near the door. What if we instead, and my Diane will never believe I'm even saying this, but what if we parked further away and literally had to walk to get into the store? It's exercise. Never happening, I know. But,
I suggest it, and you won't.
I know.
Sorry.
Get a partner, someone who can encourage you. But think about exercise. I'm looking at 1, 2, 3. There's 3 of us that are here that play basketball on Tuesday. I'm looking and realizing there's other people that could do it too. Great form of exercise, by the way. Play basketball for an hour, you burn 760 calories. Not too bad. Huh?
Said they will have a Fribble.
I can reward myself. But exercise. Take a walk around the block. take and do something to get this thing going. And finally, one of the things that I think is important is why. Why? Why put yourself through it? And for me, what's really pushing me is the fact that I want to be able to play with my grandchildren and be able to get on the floor in rough house, or go out and play football, or throw a baseball or a softball, or to run around and play tag or a hide and seek. And I know the only way that's going to happen is if I start right now to take and keep and put myself into a better place. And that means taking and paying attention to what goes in. Paying attention to what I'm doing. Because I know the benefits are beyond being able to do that. When I had my weight down, I had more energy, I was sleeping better, it's just more alert. It's more than just taking and how you look. But literally it becomes, as Paul says, it's an act of true and proper worship to take care of what God has given to you. How can you serve God? How can you serve anybody if you're not well? If you're not taking care of yourself? And think about doing it simply for God. To take and be able to say, there's somebody who's taking care of themselves. You know, there's somebody that is really working and doing things. I give credit to our bishop. If you haven't seen Bishop Scholl, Bishop Scholl's about my height. He's probably, I'm guessing, 50 pounds lighter. He is in like really great shape. He exercises every single day. He's either in the gym or running because he understands about this idea of how I take and portray myself is a representative of God's image working in and through me. I encourage you to think about it. And oh, by the way, I've been holding on to this because this is, which by the way was a shock to me this morning when I picked it up and I said, oh, I want to get a 5-pound bag of sugar. When did 5-pound bags of sugar become 4 pounds? So I lost a pound just bringing it over. So, but the way I did that is think about if you have to carry this around all day long. You just got to carry it. You know, strap it here and just say, that's 4 pounds. Imagine being able to get rid of this, and then another one, and another one. How much more energy you'll have. How much better you'll feel. Do it for somebody else. Do it for God. And you'll be amazed. It's an act of worship. You are created in God's image. We take care of this place because we say that it represents God. What about this? Shouldn't we give that similar care? Let us pray. But God, at times we take and allow our eyes to dictate what it is that goes into these bodies. We take and are blown away by fancy desserts. We want to take and have these sweet drinks and these latte, frappuccino, whatever the words are, because they taste so good, and yet they don't taste to serve any purpose in helping us feel better. God, we need to follow that example of Daniel to push away these other things so that we truly can take in what you've created for us, and that we may be an image of you in all that we say and in all that we do, even how it is that we come to the table. And place someone around us, oh God, who will work with us, encourage us, and make this journey with us so that we can be better in our health, better in our mind, better in our spirit, so that we may come and worship you with true and proper worship. Let us follow the examples of the great prophet Daniel. Let us follow the example of your Son in all that we say, in all that we do. Amen. invite you to stand as you're able, and let's sing together the Spirit song.